So Israel has been threatening to get Lebanese militants for some time, especially after a recently foiled attempt on an Israeli defense official. The Lebanese militants, aka Hezbollah, were like, ha, try and get us. We don't use mobile phones that you can track. We use something far more outdated. If you're not born before the 2000s, pagers are what they were using, and they are old school. They are little devices that display and receive messages, and that's it. Nothing else. No Facebook, no Instagram. Just get your message and read it. So outdated. Surely nothing could intercept that. Hezbollah distributed these devices across the group because these were deemed to be so low tech that they were the safest option. Until yesterday, over the course of an hour, thousands of the devices detonated in Lebanon like a little bomb. Social media filled up with the explosions. Militants who had the devices in their pockets or even close to their faces were hit by a pretty deadly explosion. Civilians, medics, children were caught in the crossfire as Lebanon filled up with mass coordinated explosions. Injuries were in their thousands. The roads had to be cleared to make way for the abundance of ambulances going in to fill up the hospitals. How did this happen? Hezbollah have blamed Israel, but Israel have not yet commented. It is unlikely they will comment, as they do not normally comment on these kinds of operations. But what we do know is the talk of revenge on Hezbollah was imminent from Israel, and few countries in the Middle East have their capability to pull off such a mass act of devastation. Some sources close to Hezbollah are claiming that the devices exploded because of a cyber attack, suggesting that perhaps the devices were hacked, forcing the batteries to overheat and then detonate. But in general, lithium batteries tend to burn out rather than explode. None of the clips so far show the devices exploding in fire, and of all the horrific injuries that have been posted on social media, none show significant burns more than the impact of explosion. And so the alternative is old school, inserting an explosive and a detonating device into the pages. Planting an explosive into a hidden device in order to catch your victim is nothing new. We've seen it in the Cold War, devices hidden in handheld devices or even cars. But what makes this potentially so devastating is the fact that it was done on a mass scale. Thousands of devices planted with potential explosives. If this proves to be true, it'll be one of the most shocking cases in spy history. Bugging this many devices would likely fall into a supply chain attack, where the pages are interfered and tampered with during production or distribution. Cue Taiwan, who got caught in the crossfire. The pages are made by a Taiwanese company, and they had to say they were not involved with this and that the move was an embarrassing thing for the company. They say they had given permission for another company to use the logo and name, and that the goods had been distributed and made in another country. Where? They didn't say. Look, the kind of operation we're talking about here would have taken months, if not years, to plan. We know that the devices that Hezbollah had that exploded were relatively new. They'd been picked up by militants over the last 2 weeks, but this will have been a massive psychological blow for Hezbollah. Even a device as simple as a pager does not necessarily escape the surveillance of the Israelis. The idea that the device was therefore physically bugged is probably a more comforting idea, not just for Hezbollah, but for most people that own tech. The idea that your device you're using could be hacked to explode is disturbing. In fact, you might want to think about putting your phone under your pillow next time you sleep. What this means for Israel now remains to be seen. They are preparing for a retaliation, and some in Lebanon fear that the pager attack was a way for Hezbollah's communication lines to be disrupted before an imminent Israeli offensive. And thanks to the power of technology, if that happens, we'll find out pretty soon.